Okay, we are using transformations to sketch a graph. And this is showing you how you can use transformations to build your graph. And the idea is you're only memorizing about 6 graphs, and using transformations and translations, you can build them. This is a great place to use your calculator as you see them because, for instance, this is going to have us graph all 3 of these. So I'm going to start. I want to graph first y1, so the third root of x. So I'm going to go here to this y equals, and I'm going to plug in my equation. Now you always want these set to y equals, so I'm going to plug in. Now you'll notice here that I don't have a root button. Some of your scientific calculators, the basic ones, might have had one. What you're actually going to use is I'm going to put in parentheses. I'm going to do this even though I don't really need a parenthesis for the x, because eventually when I get down to y3, I'm going to want the x minus 2. So I'm going to put my functions under the radical in the parentheses. Then I'm going to use this caret key, which raises the exponent. And then in the exponent, again, I'm going to use parentheses so it does the entire 1/3. Because remember, the third root is the same as the exponent to the 1/3. So you should remember that from basic algebra. This is a good little trick. This is the best way to put it into your calculator. And I'm going to hit the graph button. And this gives me the graph of the cube root of x, my base graph to this. So I can see here that this is D. Okay? Now it wants me to move a step further. So I'm going to go back here, and I can either change this one or I can keep going. I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to do parentheses. Now I want negative x. So here's my negative sign. X again, parentheses, to the, because I want the cube root, so I'm going to do to the 1/3, which is going to give me my cube root. Okay. Now I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to click on that. See what I just did? See how, I'm going to go down here. This is kind of hard because it's easier on the calculator. When I click on this, notice this isn't black anymore. This isn't going to show on my graph. But later, if I want to turn it back on, I can turn it back on and I can compare them. So I'm only going to see, when I graph, I'm only going to see y2. So I've still got both there, so I can flip-flop, but I'm only seeing one. So that allows you to select what you see, and that can be really useful in a problem like this when you're trying to look at separate graphs. You can see how this is done. This is flip this, reflected it over the x-axis, which of course the negative does. So actually, I think this way, so we can see here, going here, this is now this. Okay. Now you can see we want to do the next one. So I'm going to go back here, and again, I'm going to first go turn this off. So I've just got my cursor on that, and I've hit enter is what I've pretty much done. And then I'm going to do, okay, now I want the negative out front, negative. And then I've got, and I'm going to do 2 parentheses. The reason is, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to do x minus 2 to the 1/3. And then I'm going to go over 1 because, see, I wanted to get out of the exponent. So by pushing this, I got out of the exponent, and then I finished this. So what I've done is I've made sure that my negative was outside of everything else. Parentheses are going to be your best friend here. Parentheses are what are going to make these problems work, because the computer, the graphing calculator is pretty good, but it is not perfect. And where it can really be wonky is order of operations. And it won't necessarily do things in the order you want. So it's really important that you put in parentheses. That's how you get it to graph what you want. So you can see here, I'm going to use lots of parentheses. I probably over parenthesize, if that's a word, but I find it really helps me. Plus, it's reinforcing your basic rules, which of course we always need, every single one of us, me included, and I teach this on so many levels, it's not even funny. And I'm going to go graph, and again, I'm only going to graph, this is only going to show me y3. And you can see here, this has now moved it over. to this way as per our inside, because of course when it's on the inside it goes opposite what we think on the X and Y chart. So you can see here that this is over here, this is B. So I can easily compare these. Now what's especially nice is now I can come back here, so I finished what I wanted to do. I can come back here, and this is really huge. Come on. I'm trying to get it to, there we go. I'm going to turn all these on. Now I've got all three. So when I go graph, I can see now, I'm going to see all three, and I can see kind of what's happening with my graph. And as you study this, this can be really useful for you to see how this is working. So you can see if I would have just left all three of these on as I worked, it would have gotten really messy. But the ability to turn them on and off and compare can be very useful as you're trying to learn what each transformation and translation does. This is obviously much quicker than doing it by hand, and allows you to easily compare a lot without doing a ton of work.